After Manila, Frazier's ring career spiraled downward. After being knocked out by Foreman 8 months later, Smokin' Joe ground to a halt. He came back to fight once more in 1981 and finished with a 32-4-1 record.
The Jumbo Cummings thing was a sin. Joe had no business getting back in the ring. Since that fight, I had seen Joe coherent and bright-eyed and full of goodwill, and there are times when I've seen him slurring his words, being surly, not the normal Joe Frazier.
In 1985, he and his wife Florence filed for divorce after more than 20 years, and Frazier eventually moved into a loft apartment above his gym where he trained local talent. One was a member of his family.
He was not a promoter, he was not a mainstream trainer, but he was Joe Frazier, the former heavyweight champion of the world, who decided to become a trainer.
I started fighting because when my father lost to Ali in '75, more than anything in the world, I wanted to bring the heavyweight championship of the world back to the Frazier family. As I was standing in the middle of the ring with tears streaming down my cheeks, I could see him walking through the ropes, walking towards me. He grabbed me and he said, "Hey, son, don't worry about it. Daddy loves you. You my son. I don't care if you've been knocked down. I don't care if they call you a bum. You my son. I love you."
When Marvis retired in 1988, Frazier tried to make a champion of Joe Jr. But when he drifted into a life of crime and drugs, his father withdrew almost completely from public life. Afflicted by cataracts, diabetes, and high blood pressure, the great fighter had become an afterthought, even in his hometown.
I think the total slap in the face was when they were going to put the Rocky statue in Philadelphia and not put a statue of Joe.
The statue in the heart of the sporting district, a boxer who was to signify the heart of boxing in Philadelphia, who was to signify the blue-collar boxer, when all the time all they had to do was to take that camera down to North Broad Street to Joe Frazier's gym, and they would have had it right there.
The prototypical Philly fighter is really Joe Frazier. We didn't have too many Rockies in our town that ever did what the Rocky in the movie did, but we did have a guy who came here and worked his way up from nothing and won the heavyweight championship of the world and should go down as one of the 10 greatest heavyweight champions of all time, and probably won't.
In June of 2001, two fighters named Ali and Frazier squared off. Their first names were Layla and Jackie.
And the fact that both of these men were close to their children like that, it's not hard to see that the children would feel the animosities and the tensions of the fathers. Ironically, when they both decided to take the paths of their fathers and become boxers, they didn't have to perpetrate or plan or lay out a media format or a guideline, because it was there.
Joe Frazier's attitude is, "Oh, my daughter wants to go for it, let her go for it." And I actually think somewhere in the back of his mind, he just would get a kick out of seeing her maybe beat Layla Ali. That's how far this rivalry goes in his mind.
3 months before their daughter's bout, Ali went public with an apology to Frazier in the New York Times. Smokin' Joe rejected it, saying, "He did not apologize to me." Ali's response was, "If you see Frazier, you tell him he's still a gorilla."
Muhammad Ali did not go to the fight between Layla Ali and Jackie Frazier lied. Maybe at that particular point in time, you know, there might have been an opportunity to have some sort of reconciliation. That's what everybody's going to want to see. For them to just sit down and say, "Look, you know, this thing's gone on long enough."
In February of 2002, the two met behind closed doors the night before the NBA All-Star Game in Philadelphia. According to Frazier's son, Marvis, who was in the room, they, quote, "talked, hugged, and let bygones be bygones," end quote. After more than 3 decades, the blood feud was over.
They gave the world 3 of the best fights you will ever see. They did what they were supposed to do. That was kick ass. You don't kick ass and say, "I'm sorry."
Before the fight of the century in Madison Square Garden, Joe Frazier explained why, unlike Ali, he didn't seek media attention. "I don't need to be loved," he said. "When I go out there to do my road work, I'm alone. When I get in the ring, I'm alone." In the afterlight of their blood feud trilogy, Ali basks in history, much of it etched in his own public rhetoric, while Frazier remains alone and underappreciated. If Smokin' Joe has a legacy, it is that of the gallant opponent. For Sports Century, I'm Chris Fowler.